building. Johnny Underwood. This is so cool. I feel like I've been waiting for this.
Indeed.
I've been waiting for this. What up, class? What up? What up? I'm getting all my welcome to the roundup. I'm getting all my technologism together here. Me and brother Underwood been trying to. Underwood, give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay, what you do?
This is so smart. It's really a month or
Brother Underwood. I feel like I've been working on something for so long and it's finally here, you know? Trying to get you on here. So how was your evening? What you get into this evening, brother?
My daughter had cheerleading tryouts tonight. She made the team, so dropped her off, and we just kind of had an impromptu dinner. Normally we do Friday family fun night. My wife got off work late, so we kind of just did an impromptu bacon grilled cheese sandwiches and soup.
The little things, right?
It's the little things that matter, man. As you get older, you start to appreciate those moments.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to hear. If you don't mind, could we go back just a little bit? Not right now. I'm waiting for everybody to chime in.
Okay.
I love your message because this person is like not the guy. You know, it's like the old Johnny. Can we when we get rolling, we can get a little snap of that, you know, and then we'll fast
Of what I
forward
used
to
to
the
do.
new Johnny.
Yeah, we can do that. I'll share a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I gotta share it. That validates where I am now. So yeah, I ain't got no problem sharing that.
All right, thank you. Class, what's going on, class? I'm gonna wait for everybody chiming in. Welcome. Chris Haskins with the realestateroundup.com. Today I'm working on your mind. I'm sending out my little invites and we can get started in a minute. What's wrong with you? Sending my little invites out, John, so you can I gotta tag you in this stuff.
Tag me, tag my wife too.
Oh yeah, Jan. What's her first name?
Janice, Janice.
J.A.
Jace.
I know I had her in here. Brother Underwood, this is cool. All right, let's get rocking and rolling, guys. Tonight, for my men, I'm calling all men. But if you a lady, you can chime in too, because we need you to support these brothers, support us brothers as well. Class, thank you for coming. Thank you. Everybody's coming in, John. We got all the numbers are coming up. I don't know if you can welcome Bluebird. What's up? Nakia, Melody. Hey. The fun box photo. What's up? Miss Williams. Hey. Welcome. We're gonna get rocking and rolling in about 15 seconds. I gotta get your mind right. A very rich man told me, Chris, you're gonna judge your wealth by your health. And this to me, when I met this gentleman that I'm talking to you tonight, the guy opened up my mind to a whole other concept, a whole other philosophy that I had not even considered, to be honest with you. Welcome, class. It's Chris Haskins with the realestateroundup.com, where my mission, my ministry is to raise your financial literacy through real estate investing and entrepreneurship. Today, gonna mold you just a little bit differently with my guest, Johnny Underwood. What's going on, Johnny?
How you doing there, sir?
Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Johnny and I today are going to discuss another approach to manhood when I heard this brother speak, it's been several years since I saw him up on the stage talking, and the charisma, the enthusiasm, the passion that he speaks with about manhood just blew me away. It just blew me away, and the truth that he talks, and I see him go from. I saw him in college when we were at Hampton University. I didn't really know him that well, but we were young, running around doing crazy stuff, and hopefully he can share some of that. But when I met him years later, I'm like, who is this guy? This guy is laser focused on what he's doing, and hopefully some people tonight he's going to touch your spirit. And before we get rocking and rolling, don't forget, subscribe to my channel, shoot us a thumbs up so we can raise on optimization, and questions in the comment box so Johnny can knock them down at the end. Any questions you got for Johnny, he's gonna knock them down at the end. If you want a question answered immediately, just hit on the super chat and we'll get it answered quickly. Yes, brother Johnny, give me a little background on Johnny or your history, where you're from, what you doing, all that good stuff.
Actually from Richmond, Virginia. Came to Hampton Roads in '94. Went to Hampton University. Ended up staying in the area and started coaching. I coached at Heritage High School, a local high school in Newport News. And then I coached at Christopher Newport University. I coached women's basketball and I coached football when they first started their program. While I was coaching, I started working in special education, children with autism. Became a behavior specialist. Was at a alternative setting for 18 years. And just recently I started, I'm the behavior specialist for Williamsburg, James City County Schools.
So you got a sports background for our viewers.
Yeah, I played high school football at Huguenot High School, and I played college football at Hampton University. Gotcha. So a lot of what my philosophy, my thought process comes from a sports foundation.
Nice. Let me close this thing out. I'm getting all right. So Johnny, you and I did coffee recently, and I got my notes from that, brother. And I wish my viewers, I hope they appreciate the challenges it is for us to bring this stuff. They don't know how hard it is for us to schedule this stuff. So hopefully they're going to appreciate what we're going to drop on tonight. Tonight, indeed. I want to get inside your mind so you can get your brain right to go make your money in real estate. All right, is that okay, class? All right, let's do it. So Johnny, when we talk, one of the premises that we talked about was the struggle for men. I'm talking to all my men tonight, or females that know men. The struggle that we all have in our minds about this picture or this definition or perception of what manhood is.
So based on me, this philosophy is no blueprint. Everybody has a different definition of what manhood is based on your experiences, based on who was in your household. So with one perception, and then what ends up happening as a result of bad choices, bad relationships, mistakes, or positive relationships, positive experiences, you shape and form your definition of manhood. And then even when you become a father or a husband, that's a whole different set of circumstances. So it's almost like you're being thrust into something and you're not really prepared for it.
So it's almost like society sees us one way, but we're not really here in the way that we possibly need to be at the time.
Well, it's a process. And unfortunately, we like to cheat the process. We always want to do things ahead of time. You know, when you're young, you want to get to be 16 when you're 11. And when you're 16, you want to be 18. And when you're 18, you want to be 21. So we're always playing fast forward with our lives. And what happens is when you press fast forward, a lot of things, a lot of lessons are missed. So then what happens is in that new season, you're not equipped to be as successful as you could potentially be. And that's not all the time. Sometimes, you know, you do have best case scenario where you're ready and you're prepared, but that wasn't my story. And what I'm learning is that's not a lot of people's story.
So tell me a little bit so I can relate to I can relate to our viewers. Tell me a little bit about your story and where did you, obviously we aren't born with this awareness. You know, when did you become aware of this, I guess, philosophy that you have, brother?
And I got married. You know, for those who are married, you understand that it's two imperfect people trying to become perfect as one, and it's a struggle. And my wife, and I'm thankful for my wife. I really am. She helped me to really, she helped unlock a lot of things inside of me that were dormant. So even from a scriptural standpoint, it'll tell you that when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. And for me, she really helped thrust me into a better place and helped me really reflect and push me. At the end of the day, that's really what she did. She pushed me to be better, and I'm thankful for that.
Hmm. So her pushing you, where did you go with it? Because a lot of us get pushed certain ways, but obviously you had to grasp it and do research and come up with these techniques and different strategies that you developed.
I fought against it. I'm gonna be honest,
What you mean?
because
What do you mean you fought
well,
against it?
because at the end of the day, I had that manhood stubbornness where, I'm a man. I'm a grown man. You can tell me what to do. This is what I need to do. And she was able to see it from a different lens and say, well, I'm not saying that you're not a man, but maybe you need to go 2 steps instead of trying to go 6 steps. And it took a while. I'm gonna be honest. In December, we were married 13 years. And the first 5 years was really me trying to really adjust my thinking of where I was supposed to be. If I was where I am now mentally when we first got married, who knows where our lives would be at. So we had to
Oh,
play catch up. And that's not to say that she was perfect as well. We both came into our marriage damaged. We both came in with preconceived notions. And we just said, you know what? We're not getting married to get divorced. And we just had to really say, you know what? It's about a bigger purpose. And we learned and we created a level of trust. You can't be successful in marriage without trust. You got to trust that you got to assume best intentions and assume that what that person is trying to get you to do is for the bigger picture. Now, is it always easy? Absolutely not.
hmm. When I heard you talk a few months ago, it makes me think for myself. We think we got it together. We walk around. I'm speaking from my perspective. I'm from a
Right.
business perspective, and when I talk to you, you process it. And you're like, okay, well, maybe we look at it like this. It's almost, I don't think that I have all the answers, but when you share that stuff, it's very interesting, brother.
Well, I mean, that's the key right there. To me, the first key of being successful is acknowledging that I don't have all the answers. You can learn something from everybody. A wise man once told me that a broken clock is at least right once a day. Think about that.
All right, so I got a bullet here. You said in order for it to get through to men, we got to build some type of rapport. What did you mean by that, Johnny?
So, and again, this is just my experience. What I've seen is a lot of times we as men, we'll go through and let's take the barbershop example, right? Go to the barbershop. Barbershop is our country club, for lack of better words. And you go through and you engage with other people, but you really don't necessarily know them outside of that realm. So you think about on a college campus, you have a small pocket of people that really know you, but then you have that other group that know of you or what they perceive about you. And that's more or less how you code shift, how you shape yourself among who's around. Only a few chosen people get to really see who you really are. And what happens is I'm only going to allow you certain access. So if you're on the outside, we really don't have a good rapport. We just associates. Another thing that my wife found very strange, the word friend to me, I feel like really associate. A friend to me is somebody who will tell you right from wrong. But a lot of times we don't want those people in our circles. We want those yes men.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and again, I'm not sitting here saying that I didn't go through that season where I surrounded myself with people that were doing the same things that I was trying to do or was encouraging me to do those things. But you got to have somebody in your circle that will pull your coattail and say, no, you're wrong.
Gotcha. All right, and we talked about some of the issues that men hold in Johnny, which
Right.
gives us that stress and gets that high blood pressure up and causes those ailments. I don't know, you briefly you were telling me about a loss you had before and coping with
So,
loss, and you know, I'm gonna let you take it, brother. You know.
so my personal testimony, I lost my mom, and background information, my mom was very, very dear to me, which most people's mothers are, and when I lost my mom, it really rocked my world. I was the first or the closest death. I had lost grandparents, but they were older, so it was at a place where you expect, 89 years old. I lost one grandparent, great grandma. She was 105. You celebrate that. That is the normal expectation. So here it is. I get a call. I never forget. Me and my family were at Busch Gardens. My dad called and said, "You need to get to Richmond. Your mom's had a stroke." Totally. I mean, I can play it back in my head. Get to Richmond, she's in the hospital, and she had had a stroke, and within 2 weeks she passed away. And as a result, I was the only child, so I didn't really have brothers and sisters. Excuse me. So now I'm left trying to navigate how do I deal with this loss that I've incurred, that have gone through. My wife was there, but being an only child, my mom was that person that I was connected with. So now that she's not here, I didn't have the trust factor to really lean on my wife and be transparent. So what do? I yield to eating, and my routine was terrible, I was an emotional eater. And most people are emotional eaters. We don't like to call it that, but if you think about our culture, we celebrate with
Food.
celebrate. Let's go get something to eat. Go to the buffet. But my routine, I would get up in the morning and I would go to Sonic, get me a number four, whatever that is, with a Rock 44 strawberry limeade, and
Oh my
then
lord.
then I would go to work. And because I'm in education, it was always food, and I would eat food, and I would drink about 12 sodas while I was at work. When I would leave work, I would stop at Hardee's, get me a $5 bag meal, and that's two double cheeseburgers, an apple pie, and a Sprite. And
Oh
then
Lord.
then I would get home, I would have to eat what my wife had cooked. So I would
You
eat
can't do
dinner,
that,
and
dog.
then yeah, I had got up to 420 pounds, man. I put on 80 pounds just because I wasn't handling it the right way. And it caused stress in my marriage, stress in my life. And the doctor told me, he said, look, he asked me a question and it floored me. He said, how many obese 70-year-olds do you see? And I said, whoa, okay. He said, we got to make some changes. And my wife was encouraging me. She was like, you need to talk to somebody. She was like, you're not talking to me, but you need to talk to someone. So I finally, I said, you know what?
So
I tried.
you didn't really converse with anybody about how you were feeling?
I did. I did on a surface level. The normal, hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. It's a struggle. But really to talk about those real feelings of I
Golly.
did not know how to unpack that. I didn't know how to get to a place that I could say, this is what I'm wrestling with, that I was angry, that I was disappointed. I didn't know, A, if I would be judged. And it was people around me that were willing to listen to me, but I just didn't know how because at a young age, we're taught as men, you hold it in. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm very emotional. And it was so foreign to me that I did not know what to do.
Wow.
And I went through counseling, and the counselor said something that really was a key to unlock how I process things. And what she said was this. She said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Say that again.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Okay.
And for me, I had to stop looking like I was on this island by myself because that's what I felt. I felt alone and abandoned, even though my father was still around and he was going through his, mourning process. And I think part of me felt like I couldn't mourn because I wanted to be a support for him. But I
Ah.
had but I had every right to mourn for myself. I just didn't know how to do it.
Wow.
So
Wow.
once I began to unpack it and allow my wife to really see, she understood better what I was going through, and she was able to then help me. So then it got to a point that every night I made it a point, and we would lay in the bed and we would just cut the light off, and I would just talk. What that did, that allowed me not to see her facial expression and have a preconceived notion. Almost like a therapeutic session when you lay on the couch and you can't really see their face, because what I learned is that she would respond in a certain way, and because I'm already emotional, right, I'm hands off.
You
So
ready to back off?
we tried to eliminate that factor so that we could have just an open dialogue, and it really was productive.
Wow, that's powerful, John. I never knew that. I never. That's maybe that could be a pretty good strategy to get some stuff out. Talking in the dark.
Oh, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. Now don't go to sleep. I did that a couple of times too, but but no, it was good because as much as we listen with our eyes. So based on her facial expressions, I would already be thinking she's thinking about it this way, and I would try needed to talk about, answer, and everything.
Johnny, hold tight. Are you? How many bars you got on your phone? You for some reason you cutting in and out. You got good
I,
signal.
yeah, yours
Oh,
keep coming in and out.
so both of us. Okay, so it's both of us. Golly, this thing. Let me check my connection. I'm good. I'm gonna close some of these windows I got. This is
Yeah,
juicy, man. I don't like juicy, brother. Juicy. Test 1 2. Am I still cutting in and out too?
you good a little bit.
Let me see. Make sure it's plugged in over there too. One speed. So when did you come to the realization, Johnny, that you needed to? I need to do something. I mean, did a light bulb go on about that specific situation, about that event that happened?
Um, Realistically, what happened? I looked at myself and I thought about my daughters, and I said I wanted to be here to walk them down the aisle.
Gotcha.
As a father, it wasn't about me, it was about those who were I was responsible for. And being responsible for my daughters, it was selfish of me. I was being very selfish. So I said, you know what, I do something. I got to make a change. And again, what I've learned, man, as a man, we don't know how to unpack certain things, because as the man, I'm supposed to take it all in. I'm supposed to, be the man. I got to take care of it. I'm in charge. Well, that's true, but I got to make sure I'm in a healthy place so I can be in charge. And then me being in charge may not look like you being in charge. That's the other piece. There's no cookie cutter definition to, what manhood is supposed to look like. There are some common characteristics, but you can't judge your walk based on my walk, because you're not built for my walk. You can learn lessons from it, but that may not work for you.
I like that. So what are some of the things you got? I got a few bullets here. Broken family. We can't celebrate. Having challenges to celebrate it together. Our behaviors growing up. Being able to submit allows us to learn. What are some of these bullets, Johnny, that we can kind of take from our meeting to possibly help some of the men to maybe open up and get over some of those barriers?
So you broke up, you broke in and out, so I didn't hear everything you said. But if you're saying about submission and that
Yeah.
being able to submit to somebody else, so part of it is, you know, you look back to who you have entrusted, yourself to, because ultimately submission is about trust. If I trust you enough to share something, and then you come back and you share it with somebody else, and now that trust is broken, what's going to happen? I'm going to base the next person on my relationship with you. Because you failed me, I'm going to feel like they're going to do the same thing. And over time, when it continues to happen, we just say, you know what, forget it. I ain't gonna share with nobody. I don't want nobody to get close to me. So what we do is we put these barriers up so that nobody knows who I am. Because if I tell you how I'm really feeling, will you view it as weakness?
Mm.
And as a man, I'm not really willing to expose any weaknesses because you may take advantage of me because I've seen it in my own life and then I've seen it in society. So there's this perception that I can't show any weakness.
Wow. That's a big burden to carry. I mean, I think, John, we probably carry it around and we don't even know we're carrying it around, do we?
Oh no, you don't know. It's just part of our society. That's just our make really. And I use the word friend loosely, but your five closest people in your circle. I'll say that. You don't share everything the same way with everybody because you've learned, and this is a learned behavior, what I can trust you with. So when you first meet somebody, all right, I'm gonna test the waters. I'm gonna share something with you that it's not that heavy, and if it gets out, I'm okay with it. I'm just being honest. I mean, that's just what I've learned. So now, all right, I trusted you with that. I trust you with a little bit more. And if I see any signs that you might be judging me the wrong way, or you might go and tell, or you're gonna use it to your advantage, I cut you off. You're done.
Wow.
I mean, is that how your experience has been?
I mean, I don't critique it or analyze it until you talk about it. You know?
You start going through those five people that's in your circle, and then you say, "Yeah, I didn't share with such and such. I didn't share with such and such." I mean, that's just perfectly honest, and but that's also a good thing because now you have certain layers that you can start to create your circle of support.
Mm,
But the problem is we like to manipulate it so that we can get support sometimes in the wrong things because we like to do the wrong thing.
mm. I'm just looking at my notes here, Brother John.
That's all right.
You did some exercises at the last men's meeting I thought was cool.
Okay.
Just going down a list of things that we ain't gonna talk about. It's like a
Okay.
certain thing, like, and I'm thinking like my whole I guess for this conversation was getting men healthier. Let's get
Right.
healthier. And I know my father has PTSD, John, which
Mm-hmm.
gives me a secondary PTSD. So I go to a therapist and all for that too. But I'm sure we're carrying around so much stuff that gives us that stress. Which sometimes at nighttime I'm not even sleeping during the night. Give me some of those little exercises that, not all of them, but some things that you can share with my viewers, Johnny, that we can ask ourselves: Am I carrying this around? Or like I remember it was a whole list. You put them around the room. It was real cool.
I'm trying to remember which ones, but let's take, for example, the PTSD that you stated, right?
Mhm.
So if you recognize, all right, your dad has PTSD, you have PTSD to what did you say, secondary PTSD?
Secondary.
If you look at, and I'm gonna give the wide range. If you look at today's society now, there's a big push dealing with trauma. And when you hear the word trauma, ultimately we think about to the extreme. But trauma is so much more than just what the ambulance has to come for. And then you have to understand that everything that we see, everything that we experience has some type of impact on us. When you start understanding why you look at things like you do, and I always say this, a lot of times we don't like to get to the root of things. The roots are always dirty because they're buried. They're buried for a reason. But we don't like to deal with the roots because then what may start happening is you start looking at some things that may not be the best. Now, notice I didn't say wrong, may not be the best, because any admission of anything that's you were not willing to share that your father has PTSD and that you have secondary PTSD is huge. I would ask you that there was a time when you wouldn't be willing to share that publicly, right?
Oh my Lord, yeah, man. So embarrassed. Embarrassed.
Indeed, embarrassed. But I guarantee you, your father's not the only father. If you look at those who are listening or may see this at a later time, that their father or somebody in their family has PTSD. Now, the challenge is it's not always recognized for what it is. You look at the older generation, they were very much don't talk about it. That's just what it is. We're just now being at a place because of the internet, because of social media, we're being exposed because we're now more educated. We're getting exposed to a lot more things that can help us. One of the best things that I tell anybody is, we have these smartphones, but we don't always use them for what they can be used for. If you start just Googling PTSD, you'll be surprised all the different things that will come up. Now, some of it is not the best information, but you cipher through and you identify what's reputable sources and begin to really learn for yourself. So therefore, now when you talk to somebody, whether that be a counselor, whether that be whomever, you can speak from an educated place. A lot of times we don't speak up because we're not educated on things. And when we're not educated on things, we just sit back and we don't say anything and we just go with the flow and formulate our own, often wrong perceptions.
I heard you say trauma. So you hit on some other traumas, John. What other traumas could we be carrying around, brother? That I didn't even know that I was just made aware of secondary PTSD about 4 years ago, John. I didn't even know that you living with someone causes you to have it too. And for me, I grew up with it.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the other things, Johnny, that we're holding in, brother?
Man, abandonment, um, you know, the fact of being accepted. Um, you think about it, and it's so many. I'm trying to pinpoint one specific, and I'll be transparent for mine. Traumas that I had. I did,
That thing freezing.
my little cousin was in the car, and I didn't really understand why now. And even to this day, when I drive, there's a significant amount of space between me and the car in front of me, just because in the back of my head, I'm always replaying that accident. Now, that's a very non-threatening trauma,
Mm-hmm.
but it shows how a previous experience will then govern your behavior going forward.
Wow, yeah. That experience changed the way you're acting now. That's where I want to get to. Yeah, that's what. But see, you pinpointed that though, John. I think for me it was like I can't even recognize that because I don't know what to look for that's changing the way I'm acting
Well,
later.
so, and if you don't mind, we'll take your example, okay?
Okay.
So you think about, you said your dad has PTSD. So what is your, like, if we say, give me a memory from your dad, from you growing up, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
I mean, hands down, when we ran out of Windex one time, the man opened it under the kitchen sink, goes bananas, cursing,
Okay.
"Where the F is the Windex? You know we have no wind." Just little stuff like that. I'm like, dude, we can go to the store and buy some more. I mean, what's the problem? I just remember
Okay.
that like it was yesterday.
So then my question to you is, what happens in your household when you run out of certain things? How do you respond?
Never a problem. Never a problem. I just go to the store, but I've never if it's something out, you just go to the store. I don't even say anything.
So that's a because what your father did was so aversive. And this is what I always say. A lot of times we don't like to give credit where credit is due. People that do things to us in our lives, whether positive or negative, it helps us formulate who we become. As much as you hear people say, I'll never be like my mom, I'll never be like my dad, whatever it may be. Yeah, you're right, but you are the way that you are because of them. You either learn what to do or you learn what not to do.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
So, your experience is a good one, but you may have somebody who, like, I would ask you, do you have Windex in your house right now?
Yeah, I keep 2 bottles.
Exactly. So, because you don't want to run out. That's the reality. Again, that's the trauma. And it's very surface, and we can laugh about it now, but like I only have 1 bottle of Windex because that wasn't my experience. Now, I will tell you this. When my wife was pregnant, we ran out of ketchup one day. And she had an emotional response. So right now, I got 5 bottles of ketchup in my pantry. I will never run out of ketchup again. We might run out of toilet paper, but we ain't running out of ketchup.
I think that's one example that's not too bad, but I think from listening to you talk, it's probably just so many layers and layers and layers of this stuff, brother.
It is. It's lots of layers to it. But again, it's taking that magnifying glass or that microscope and really taking some time to learn who you are. And when you start asking yourself, okay, I do this, but why do I do this? And that's a very difficult, very, very difficult conversation to have with yourself. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Why
To
do
be
I do
able,
this?
say what?
You say, why do I do this?
Right. That when you start doing a self assessment, that's when it's tough because nobody likes to be checked, and nobody really likes to check their own self. So that's 2 negatives, and I don't want to do that because in my head, for the most part, we mostly think, I'm good. I got it going on. I make some mistakes, but I'm good. Um, but we all walk around damaged. We all have something that is, weighing us down. And what we've done is we have morphed ourselves to be able to still coexist and do what we have to do in the world. So, for example, when I lost my mom, I felt like the world was on fast forward and I was on slow motion because I was trying to recover from the loss, but I still had to go to work. I still had to be a husband. I still had to be a father, but I was trying to deal with this trauma and the world kept doing what it was doing. So I had to make an adjustment, almost like a slingshot. I had to press fast forward to get caught up to my normal every day because I was behind.
I mean, is that where the stress comes in? Is that because I'm just thinking I'm just imagining putting myself in your shoes. Days going by, you're like, man, you're thinking about the past, no doubt, with your mother. Is that where the stress kind of starts to just pile on?
So we as men are known as silent sufferers. What we'll do, we'll take the burdens of life, we'll take the financial burdens, we'll take the health burdens, all those things, and we'll just pack it on and keep going because we have this business as usual mindset. And that is one of the most unhealthy things that you can do. You think about it, when you have a car, you got to get the oil changed, you got to get it maintenance, you got to get it taken care of, you got to get it tuned up, you got to take care of it. Same thing applies with us mentally and physically. One of the things that I started doing was I started walking uh, to the end of the block.
Okay.
But then over time, I built up a stamina. But what I also started doing was while I was walking, I would reflect on certain things and I would make it a positive time to really just work on my mental. So therefore my mental could then reflect my physical. And it was a process. I'm not gonna lie. And that was self-taught. That worked for me. Somebody else, like I swim. I love swimming because it's nothing but me in the water, and I can focus on whatever it is that I want to focus on that day. Whether it's, trying to identify what I've done that I need to do better, what I've done to be successful. Just doing a self-assessment. I encourage people to do a self-assessment at least once a week. You have to set a goal. If you don't set goals, then what are you doing it for? You got to have it, and it's got to be measurable, something that you can go back and say, this is what I'm striving to do. If not, you're just repeating the cycle over and over again.
1 second, Jay. Hey, Taylor.
Yeah.
Taylor, you cut the TV off. I think someone's eating up my bandwidth. The TV's running in there. It's not on in the back, is it, babe?
Yeah.
Taylor, you hear me in there? Go cut that off. Is it one in the back too?
No.
Okay. Oh, where
Which
is it?
TV is it?
It's on. Let's see it on.
It is?
Johnny, how can we identify? I'm just. You got my notes here has broke something that happened to us as children can determine how we're acting now as adults. And we might not even think about it. I mean, how can we I heard you say that word self-assessment. That's real. You know, how do we take time to make that self-assessment, John?
It varies. Everybody's at a different place. I think one thing you can do, and this is something that I've done with my students when I taught, I would take a graphic organizer, and all that is taking shapes and have people write inside the bubbles. And the first thing I would do in the first bubble is, who are you? And I would say, just give me one word answers about who you are. And then I would draw a line to another bubble to say, who do you think, well, who do you think, I'm trying to say, think of teacher, what my perception was.
Say
and
that
they
one
would
more time.
write certain.
What's that? Say that one again. You broke up.
I would ask the students what they thought my perception was of them, and they would write the words out. And then I would take another line and I would say, who do your parents say that you are? And then I would say, who do your friends say that you are?
Wow.
And what I found, each of those bubbles had some different things in them. So what ended up happening, I said, well, out of all of these bubbles, who are you really? Because you put effort in trying to create these other characteristics in these bubbles. Who are you really? And the reality was, a lot of the things that were in all the bubbles weren't who they really were. They were trying to create a facade to be somebody. And that's what happens, I think, sometimes with us as men, because I try and save face when I go in this place. So, prime example, we both went to Hampton, right? And you look at it, depending on where you were, you may have acted a little differently because of certain environments, because of certain people, certain groups. And that's what happens no matter where we are, we code switch to our environment. As we get older, then you become to say, you know what? I don't have the energy to try and be all these different people, so I'm just going to be who I am. But now, after 35 years, a lot of times we don't really know who we are.
Good Lord.
So now you trying to identify and define, who am I? What, are you really okay with just sitting in a room by yourself in the quiet? A lot of times we're not, because if you take away the distraction of the TV, you take away the distraction of the phone, you take away all the other distractions, you're left with your inner thoughts.
Wow.
And that's where the wrestling match comes in, because if we don't really know who we are, it can be devastating to sit there and really listen to your mind and what your mind really says, because then you start to reflect back on the stresses of life. You begin to reflect back on, what happened in my childhood, previous relationships, unhappiness, whatever it may be.
You talking, dog. Good
So
Lord have mercy.
Silence is very uncomfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable. If you're in a room and you say, all right, I want everybody to be quiet, somebody's going to cough or do something to break that awkwardness. And it's because you don't want to hear what's really inside sometimes. You don't want to really go there. So you think about it, we take our cell phones in the bathroom. We take a lot of cell phones everywhere because we need the distraction. It has become part of our cycle. It's become part of who we are and what we do. We've accustomed or we have shifted to distractions because distractions allow us not to really deal with the truth.
Wow. Good Lord. I hope they are receiving. I hope you're receiving this from my people, my roundup family. You know what's weird? Whenever I want to create, when I'm negotiating with a seller, John, going to buy their house,
Uh-huh.
whenever I want to throw them off their game a little bit, get them a little uncomfortable, get quiet. I just stop
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah, because now ball is in your court.
It works 100% of the time, man. And even sometimes when I'm on the phone with them, I'm talking to sellers, I just be quiet. They're like, "Are you still there?" I'm like, "Yeah, still here, listening." You're right.
Well, because now you think about it, if you and I are on the phone and you don't talk, now I'm left with my own perceptions of what I think you're thinking.
Wow. Wow.
And you think about it, our society today, we rely on text message so much. And text message doesn't give you the benefit of facial expressions, tone of voice. So now I'm left to draw my own conclusions. So
Wow.
if you really want to misconstrue something, you send a text message. Text message can be perceived 10 different ways.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right. Well, let me go to my page, John, and see if anybody has any questions for you, brother John. Thank you for your time, brother. I can't tell you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely, man. Look, I wore my shirt, broken crayon, still color.
Round up family. If anybody has any questions for John on this topic of another approach to manhood, throw it in there. What's going on, Tanya? For Celeste, what's up? What's up, Celeste? Good perspectives. Manhood is one of her favorites. Cool. Kendrick, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, I don't think we have any questions here. We might though. John, your perspective is just so. I mean,
Well, here's the thing.
amazing.
My perception is still being written. And that's one of the other things that I think, manhood today doesn't look the same as it did 20 years ago. And what happens is you have a disconnect between generations because you have a more seasoned generation that'll say, well, they don't want to hear my voice. I'm not valued. And then you got that generation that's coming up behind them that think they know. Well, not that generation, but they still trying to learn. And then you got the younger generation who think they know all the answers. And it's like, but you don't want to listen. I talked earlier about not being prepared for different seasons. A lot of wisdom is lost because we as men don't know how to communicate effectively, consistently.
So, yeah, the communication part, is it that we don't know the words or we don't want to know the words, John?
So this is what I've learned, and I'm guilty of it. I'm so guilty of it, and I'm doing better at it. We listen to respond.
Listen to respond.
We don't listen to understand.
Don't listen to understand. All right.
So what that means, what that looks like is, as you're talking, I've already formulated what I want to say. So I'm tuning out everything else that you're saying so that I can get my response in. And then if you sprinkle a little bit of emotions on that, all hell's gonna break loose. Because I gotta be heard. You know what I'm saying? I gotta make sure that my voice is heard. And my struggle was when me and my wife would be having discussions, she would say something and I would formulate my argument, my point, and I would be so emotionally driven that I would want to remember my point because it was a good point, and I wouldn't listen to anything else she had to say. And sometimes she would say, "Well, I just said that," and she'd be like, "You're not listening to me," and I'd be like, "Yeah, I was listening, but I didn't hear her." So a lot of times I had to eat crow.
So we gotta thank your wife. Where's she at, man? We gotta thank her for all this stuff.
Man, she downstairs with the girls. I think they're doing karaoke or something.
Thank you, Ms. Underwood.
So what I started doing, I started writing my words down as we were going through. So therefore I could still listen to it and remember my point. There you go. Notes. I'm telling you. Makes a difference. It makes a difference.
Good one, John.
So, I mean, this manhood thing, it's a discussion that needs to be had, but we don't even have too many forums to really have the discussion. Because what happens in the barbershop is I'm going to create the best story. When you go to the barbershop, is who can tell the best story, who can be the most colorful. And then if you have, a beauty shop in the barbershop, I don't go to barbershop anymore, but when I used to go, if you had women in there, that ups the ante. Who can put the best foot forward, say place that we can truly just be transparent about what's going on in our lives.
I think that's a problem, in general for men. Who do you call, John? You said that before. I remember you said, "Who do we call if we have a problem with something during the day, and even feeling underappreciated? We did something we did something above taking out the trash. We did something other than that. We felt underappreciated. Who do you call, John? I mean, who do you go to with this stuff?"
And this is where it becomes real transparent, and you got to have that trust factor. You go to the person, you think about it. And for those people who are married, if you don't feel appreciated by your spouse, you're going to seek out appreciation from somewhere. You think about it on your job or wherever it is that you do, that person who's giving you the compliments, who's feeding your ego, you're going to find yourself gravitating towards them because we all have a need to be appreciated. That is just a humanistic trait that we possess. You're going to have to, find somewhere to be fed. So what me and my wife do, we had this thing, if I do something, she'll say, "Attaboy." And just to say, and vice versa. If she does something like, "Atta girl," and we've made it a running joke, but what it is making deposits of affirmation so that when you walk out, you don't feel like a deficit. And now you go searching for reinforcement in other places.
Wow, you preaching, man. Good gracious, you got it going tonight, brother John. Thank you, thank you.
Mistakes. And then being married.
Wow, man. All right, let me see. Hold tight. Neuro-linguistic programming. Yeah, listening with only one sense. Celeste, hey, abandonment and trauma are major ones in our community. Yes. Because I
So
said, go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I can speak to abandonment. I was adopted, right?
Wow.
And I really, my situation was great. I'm going to be honest. The parents that adopted me were at that age where they were ready to be parents. Great. And I didn't realize this until after my mom died. It brought up emotions of abandonment because I felt like my mom had abandoned me.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I was faced with, this wasn't the first time that you were abandoned. You were given up for adoption.
Earlier.
So earlier. So it was a cycle and it had been suppressed, even though I found out when I was young. And I don't have any ill will towards my birth mom. I don't have any ill will towards anybody for that situation. I'm thankful, actually. But I had to really deal with the abandonment issue. And what it did, it then manifested itself in my relationships
Wow.
because I didn't want the abandonment. You did something that it gave me that signal that, you know what, you was on the fence, you was wishy-washy. All right, you cut deuces. Because I
Right.
wasn't going to put myself, you know what I'm saying, in that position anymore because it hurt me. So I made sure that if I was in a relationship that I could be safe in it because I wasn't dealing with the abandonment piece. Now,
Wow.
again, my abandonment is not like, you have some other people that deal with abandonment on a bigger scale, but it illustrates the trauma piece of how one thing can impact you and be in your subconscious. A couple of my friends are adopted and they deal with abandonment on different levels. So it manifests itself differently. Again, I'm thankful for my situation. My birth mom, I'm thankful. My adopted parents, I'm thankful. All the way around the board, I was blessed.
Wow, man. Abandonment. I'm presuming when you talk about your mother, obviously she couldn't help but, moving on, but the way you took it,
He's not there anymore.
yeah.
So regardless of what caused the abandonment, at the root of it, I'm defining it as abandonment.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. Yeah, the way you. Wow. All right, brother. We've been on here for an hour, John. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Kyla Dalton says she's. I don't know he or she. I don't know. Kyla has lived for his or her family since they were 12. Had to grow up, work, hustle, sacrifice. Now that they're gone, who am I? Who is Kyla?
Mm,
Okay, it's a girl. She's learning who she is now at 47. Wow.
right.
Cow. You want to comment on that one, John? Wow.
So repeat what she said again.
She's lived for her family since she was 12. Had to grow up, work, hustle, sacrifice. Now that they're gone, she's asking herself, who is Kyla? She's now learning who she is at 47. That's been 35 years ago.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
That is that's a common thing. We
Really?
often live our lives for other people. And it's nothing more humbling than to wake up and ask that question, who am I? The one thing that I would encourage her to do is, and somebody told me to do this, and I didn't do it. I'm gonna be honest, I was lazy. I did it one time and it worked. Start journaling and writing down your thoughts.
I do that. I do that.
I need to get much better at that. But you have to start identifying, you know, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what pushes your buttons, what motivates you. In the morning when you get up, why are you doing what you do?
Wow.
Those are the pivotal questions that can start to define who you are. Um, Often we look for confirmation in other people. And if we don't get the confirmation, we will adjust who we are or what we appear to be to get the
Confirmation.
confirmation. So I would just encourage her. And again, I'm gonna be honest. I'm an advocate for counseling. And unfortunately, in our community, we don't do counseling because we feel like, if I talk to somebody, it's a sign of weakness, or we used to call. I'm not going to no shrink. Well, you know what? You got to take care of yourself, and if you need to get somebody who is not connected with you so that they can speak from a position of, you know, being objective and not being subjective. Somebody that can really say, okay, well, I saw this and I see this. This is what it may be. Now it's up to you to really take to heed what they're saying and make the adjustments. But I'm an advocate first and foremost for counseling for mental health purposes to help us. Um, you really got to start looking at, you know, and not to put or really put her on the spot, but what were the things that you liked about your childhood? What were the things you didn't like? Looking back on it, what were the positives? What were the negatives? Was a mother and a father in the house? You start really dissecting all the different pieces of the family nucleus, and at 12, what happened prior to 12? Ages, birth through 11, what was going on? Why was 12 such a significant number? Was it
Yeah.
something aversive that happened that then she had to go and work? And then is there some animosity because she had to work and hustle? Because maybe, whatever it may have been, other siblings or, parents
Wow.
not doing or, whatever it may have been. And then once you start really identifying and asking those questions, then you can start to formulate some realities. Now, the reality is this: those are some very heavy questions to deal with.
Yeah, John. That's exactly why I wanted to have this.
Because
That's right. Go ahead.
yeah, because when you start unpacking those things, it
Start.
can cause more damage if you're not in a healthy place to really know how to assess what you've put on the table.
That's why a professional will be the right person to talk to, John, you're saying?
Absolutely. And here's the other thing. Some people have bad experiences with, counselors or professionals, as you call them. You have to find the one that works for you. You may not get the right one the first time, but don't give up because they're I'm not going to say bad apples, but it may not be the apple that you like. You got to search and find out. Do your research.
That's
The
great
counsel
advice.
that I went to, the counsel I went to was a white woman. And I did that because I wanted somebody who wouldn't side with me being a man, or I didn't want somebody that was a black woman who would side with my wife's perception if I wanted to say, this is my perception when my wife does. I needed somebody who was totally disconnected that could just speak from a very, this is what I see, that I would be able to suspend any preconceived notions that they were taking aside. Now, that's what I needed. You have to really identify, do I really want to know the truth? That's the first question. Because a lot of times we say we want to, and I'm not saying this is what what was her name, Kyla? I'm not saying this is where, I'm not saying this is where she is, but I'm talking about in general. A lot of times, we're comfortable in where we are because that's our routine.
We feel good being there. What'd you say, John?
Now I was saying the big question is you have to ask yourself, do I really want to go down this road and make a change? And then if you really do, begin to put the proper things in place so that you can not just do it for the moment, but have an everlasting effect.
Thank you, Kylan. I hope that helped. Celeste says she thinks a lot of men suffer emotionally because of lack of resources, John. What is your opinion on that?
It's not lack of resources. To some degree, I agree. But I also think we don't know how to attain the resources. We're not especially in our culture, we don't talk about stuff. So we don't pass down how to take care of certain things, how to, be better. We we learn from our mistakes. In other cultures, there is a system in place that can help generations where they reach back and they educate. Our system is not set up. The only thing that we pass on is high blood pressure and sugar. So lack of resources, yes, to some degree. There has to be a shift in the mindset to say, you know what? It starts with me. I'm going to do the research not for me, but for those behind me so that I can educate them and make sure that they're at a better place than I was. But the dangerous thing is, as a society, we'll say, well, I want my kids to have what I didn't have. And then we end up giving them financial things and spoiling them because I didn't, because of my lack. Well, great principle. Miles Monroe said, when you don't know the purpose of something, you will abuse it.
Oh, wow.
So that purpose is great. But what are you passing on? What are you encouraging people to do behind you? Are you really helping them be more successful? So, yeah, there is a lack of resources available just because we don't know. There are so many resources out there. One of the other things that I like to do especially in the field of special education, there are a lot of resources that are available that our community doesn't know about.
Don't ask.
They don't ask. Well, you don't know. That's the reality. And when we get to that place where we can say, you know what? I don't know what I don't know. And the only way that I can know is to open my mouth and find out. But because sometimes the people that have the resources don't look like us, we're not as willing to go ask.
I think, let's close out Celeste. Celeste, I wanted to, before we move to the next one, John, I'm an amateur at the good book, but I know this world is reserved for the askers. And in the real estate business, I've been able to raise, the money that I have raised from opening up my mouth and asking. But I wasn't taught that till I got older, to just open up my mouth and like, listen, the answer to every question you don't ask is no, so all they can say is no if you don't ask. I think John was, when I hear you say lack of resources is a problem, but I'm hearing you I'm hearing you say we don't ask for the resources that might be available.
Right. Well, we don't know where to assess them at. So it goes back to that communication piece. And I'm not going to disregard the power of no, it's painful to hear the word no, because now I feel like I'm not being accepted or I'm being denied. And that's a whole nother trauma. You think about when you've been told no in your life and how it impacted you. So what do? We put ourselves in positions where I won't hear no.
Wow. Yeah, I don't. But John, I mean, in business, you're gonna have
Things
to. I mean, easier said than done, but you
keep
got
it
to.
going forward.
I mean, in the business world, man, we hear no all the time. But I think what you're saying is a whole nother. That's probably a whole nother day, brother.
Yeah.
I hear the noise in my head. My stomach, when you said that, I could hear my stomach. I could feel it do a little shake. I
Yeah.
had never thought about that.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely get you back on. I mean, we can't wrap everything up in an hour, so let's keep moving. Are we good on time, John? I got a few more minutes.
Oh yeah, you good. You good.
All right. Once again, I'm thankful for you, Celeste. Thank you, Tanya. Let me catch these things down here. Carrie Stringfellow, how does the ability to have elevated emotional intelligence factor in real estate deals?
Say that again.
Carrie wants to know, how does having the elevated emotional intelligence factor in with real estate deals?
That's an answer for you.
I'm thinking, well, I mean, even for you, Jay, did you do an acquisition recently?
I did. I did. So I'll say this. Um, I bought my first property. I think I was in my 20s, in my mid 20s, and I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't research how the property value was. So now I got a piece of property. I'm blessed that I got a tenant in it, but the property is upside down. I mean, I
Were you
couldn't give it away.
emotional were you emotional when you bought that one?
I was. I
We
was.
all
I was.
the
I'm gonna
first
be
one.
honest. I was listening to, people say, well, what, you spending all this money in rent, you need to buy. Okay. And it was an emotional buy. It was close to my job. Some of my coworkers stayed out there. It's one of the worst neighborhoods in this area. But they were building new townhouses out there and houses. So at my young age, I'm like, shoot, I hang out here. It was a three bedroom townhouse, brand new. And I got it for like $80,000. Great. Nice square foot, $30,000 because of the area. And because I was so emotionally pushed, I didn't really do my research and I wasn't patient. So what I say is that emotional piece, it overrides not being patient because we want things right now. I got to do it. I'm an emotional response. So if I'm sober in my thinking and I'm able to look at the bigger picture, I can do research and I can approach things from an educated standpoint.
Good one, John. I wanted you to answer that, John. I mean, I deal with real estate every day. I think it's when I say it, it's almost like when you say it, it's more official, brother.
I mean, and again, so then you go to my second purchase. Um, we purchased a house and we moved from another townhouse. So when me and my wife got married, we both had properties. Mine was the newer one, so we said we would rent mine out, and we lived in hers. And then we found that it's not the copper piping, but whatever the bad pipe was a few years ago.
Pets,
There was
Quest,
what was
Quest piping.
whatever it was, it cost us a lot of money. So we said, all right, we're going to sell hers and we're going to buy another house. Well, we bought a house and we did better than the first times that we purchased independently, but there were still some things we didn't know. We didn't know that the flood insurance was going to hit us in the mouth. So then, all right, we got through a very, very process. I mean, the people, I know they were tired of us asking questions. But it goes back to I've been burned so many times. Let me check. And even still, we still didn't know. So I think with real estate, A, you got to have an agent that you trust. B, you got to be able to have some candid conversations with your agent to say, this is what I want. This is what I don't want. Don't BS me. To me, your real estate agent got to be one of your best friends during that season. There has to be constant communication. We had a situation where our agent, something went wrong when we were in the house, and he said, I'm gonna ask y'all to leave. I'm gonna take care of it. Because the agent is our advocate. They speak for us. And when he came outside, he said, look, I'm upset. This wasn't right. This is what we're going to do, A, B, and C. I know y'all want this house, but I'm not going to allow you to be in a situation that's not going to be good for you in the long haul. So
Nice.
now,
Nice.
because we were emotionally sound and say, you know what? Yeah, we want this house, but if it ain't right, we ain't going to create a situation that 5 years from now, we're in a bad situation. So being emotional, will cost you a lot of money. And that's
Okay.
not just in real estate, that's in life.
In life in general. But Kerry, I want to get back. Let me finish with Kerry. I'm gonna wrap yours up, John. John has a perspective from owner occupant. I'm coming from, obviously I have to have an owner occupant too, but I'm coming from an investor world where our emotions are in the car. When I get out of that car, and John, believe me when I tell you, I know some guys that do you think I'm emotionless? I know some guys that walk in the house and their face. I know some killers, some guys that when you walk, you go in front of their face like this, they're like this the whole time. And I've
Are
seen
y'all
these,
trained to do that?
you know what? I think the masters that I've met, the giants that I've met over time I think they did some gambling first.
Poker
Second,
face.
yeah, poker. Second, they're dealing with so many dollars, John. It's almost like they've got these compartmentalizations of these 100,000 here, 300,000 here, 400 there. So there is so many of these houses going on in their mind. The one in front of them, I could care less. What I found out is I don't care if I buy your house or not. It's irrelevant to me. We will buy another house in the future. That's where was it Carrie? That's where that emotional intelligence comes from. You have to check, man. The emotion. Listen to John when he's talking about the first. Even me, my first house was terrible. I mean, everybody. The first two you buy, I mean, you're so emotional getting in there, and everybody wants to feel good and moving in, and they're warm and fun. Get that out of here, man. All right. But John did say he did better on the next on later on in life, though, which is nothing but a game, John. It's like, with any basketball, football, you get better with the game.
That's right. It's all about the process. And then learning from your mistakes. That's another key. What I've also learned is that, we'll repeat something over and over again because we don't learn the lesson. It's always a lesson to be learned.
Nice. Deposits of Affirmation sounds like a good book. Yeah, it does. Danny Ramos wants to know what can he do to become a better communicator, John? Is there something you can recommend? I know what I know what I think, but go ahead.
No, well, you go ahead. Let me see what you say first, and then I'll follow up.
Oh man, for me, I have not always been a master communicator. I feel honored and blessed, John, to be able to command words from the English language. That
Mhm.
has come over time, but I made it a study to learn new words constantly. I'm always reading new books to add to my vocabulary constantly. If you look at my nightstand, I got a stack of books. And I'm taking courses to learn how to talk to people. Like I can meet any person. My wife always asks me, how in the heck you talk to anybody anywhere, but that's a skill that I have learned, Danny. I made it a study to learn how to communicate with people, and it changed my life.
So the question I would ask him would be, is the problem on the reception or receiving the communication and then giving it back? Or is it, what's the challenge with this communication? That's what I would ask.
Danny, if you were
So that,
there, Danny,
so,
if you want to chime in there, we'll get John, the master, to chime in on that down. He's not. I'd have to come in on that, John. Let me see if he's still there.
okay.
Go ahead and answer that,
So
Danny. He's
so
there.
I'll say this. Is he still there?
Danny, if you're there, tell them, is it a problem communication with the receivers end
Recep-
or on your end? We'll come back to Danny, John.
Okay. Well, while you're going through, I'll say this. One of the things that I had to do because I had a problem with my comprehension and then regurgitating it back. So I had to shift how I responded to things. So one thing that you can do, if we're having a conversation, my response before I give my rebuttal, I would say, so what I hear you saying is A, B, and C. So what that does, it eliminates the potential of me making a wrong assumption. It gives you the opportunity to clarify. Now, it does take some time and extend the conversation, but I look at it like this. You're going to invest the time in it one way or the other. Either I'm going to invest it on the front end trying to clarify, or I'm going to invest it on the back end arguing my point.
But John,
So
I hear both of us doing that when we're talking to each other right now.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's a learned skill. Your communication skills have to improve over time. I'm gonna be honest, being a teacher was one of the things that my communication skills had to be on point. And I taught children with special education, so a lot of them didn't talk.
Wow.
So now I have to use all different facets of my ability to communicate, my facial expression, my hands, to communicate in an effort so that they can understand what I need them to understand.
Wow.
So that's where mine was shaped at. In addition to coaching, um, this so that you can be effective or successful at the play. Because so those experiences help shape my communication.
Well, with being a coach, even with being a real estate coach, the words that I use, I'm trying to pull stuff out of people. I'm presuming in sports, it's the same way. You got to push them, and you're pushing them to do better and pulling
Yeah.
stuff that you know that's inside.
And it's because as the coach, I see the bigger picture, and then you have to understand that you can't communicate with everybody the same way.
Nice,
And
nice.
a lot of times, as men, we have this. Well, that's just who I am. Well, that don't make it right. And I'll be honest, I've used that. I was like, look, this is who I am. Well, okay, you continue to be you. It's not effective, but how's that working for you?
I wanted to get, I wanted to get to that, John. Something you said one time. I'm gonna get to the questions. You were like, not me. You were saying some story, and you're like, not me. I'm special. I'm special. You were talking about the old John.
Oh,
Those,
so
huh?
all right, so I'll be
Those,
transparent. I'm gonna talk
those,
about my trauma.
yeah, those rules apply to them. I'm special. I remember.
So you talk about trauma, right? Middle school, I was in the sixth grade, and I had a disagreement with my mom. I was borderline disrespectful in a way, and I did this right before we went school shopping. Dumbest mistake ever. So Tom McCann had the worst shoes ever, bruh. And I'm going to middle school. That's that age where, your rep makes a difference. I walk in there with my Tom McCanns on and my button-up shirts looking like a dweeb, and they tore my hind parts up, bruh. Cracking the whole first semester, bruh. And I was so hurt and scarred that when Christmas time came and I got some good shoes, when I walked in, my mission, I was hurting everybody's feeling. I was on a mission to straight do damage. So now, just being honest. So, at a young age, I was on I dealt with all this. Now it's your turn. So, twofold. One, I have a thing now about my shoes and my kids' shoes. I bought them Jordans because that's what I like. And they don't even they want some old, cheap shoes. They don't care. But I knew what it was like for me, and I tried to impress upon them what I felt at that age. So a lot of times we live vicariously through our kids, trying to formulate based on what we experience. So, I made it a point, they will always have clean shoes, nice shoes. they could care less about it. Whereas our generation, your kicks had to be right. They don't. My daughters don't even care. I bought them Jordans. I think they wore them twice, and they were like, whatever. Like, hey, I spent $60 on these shoes. You better put these things on. You better sleep in these shoes. But it's just different generation, man. But again, it shows how that trauma um, impacted me because I wanted my daughters to be as far away from that trauma as possible. So, I mean, overboard when they were younger, just buying shoes. My wife would say, "Babe, they're gonna grow out of these shoes. Why are you buying them?" Well, because I want them to have them. Well, no, I was buying them because I was hurt at a young age as a child because of my footwear. So I went over the top to try and prevent my children from going through it.
Wow. That gets back to from the beginning of our conversation, man. You're bringing it around. You've been working it, John. You've been working it, bringing it back around a little bit. All right. Let's see. We got a few more, then we're done. Jason
Okay.
Smith, thank you, brother, for coming in and watching this. Jason, uh, Katrina, this is very good stuff. Take the time to know thyself. Self-reflect in order to love from the inside out. Thank you, Katrina. Yes. Celeste, love the topic. Thank you. Thank you. Unique, what's up? Unique View. Thanks for coming. Mr. X, a lot of times we don't know what to ask. Yes, that is a good question. I guess a lot of times we don't know, as John was just saying, that we don't know what to ask or who to even go to.
Right.
Carrie
So
is saying, huh?
no, go ahead, read that, and then I'll give. I was going to say something. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I mean, if you can go ahead, Mr. X. Well, you can go on that one. Go ahead, John.
Well, what I was going to say is if you look at who's in your circle, right? And I'm not sure. I don't want to quote who said it, but they said you are the average of the five people in your circle,
That's true, bro.
and you should be in the middle of who's in your circle. You should have somebody in your circle who is where you're trying to go. You should also have somebody in your circle who you're trying to take to a different place, who's trying to go or come where you are. Challenges or the problem occurs a lot of times we have people in our circle that we all in the same ditch. And if we're all in the same ditch, how can we help expand where we're going? You have to be connected with people who are beyond your normal exposed to different things. If we in the same thing, if we lived in the same neighborhood and then we went to go to the same college and we just know each other, how can we expose ourselves to new things? The definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results.
Can y'all save me one thing? Is it too much? I'm trying to see if they can save me a cookie, John. Y'all gonna save me a cookie or?
Cookie. Good luck with that, bro.
Yeah, they gone, man. The school fundraiser just came in today.
Uh-oh. Oatmeal raisin?
Nah, they got chocolate chip, man.
Nope.
Carrie says the reason that we don't ask is because the perception that blacks are needy and not self-reliant. Wow, that's a good one right there, man.
So my first question is that, who created that perception? And, ultimately society did. You have all these things talking about, welfare, the handouts, and all these different things. I got it to some degree, but you have to be willing to go beyond that because that ultimately that's another ploy to get you not to ask, to
Yep.
keep you silent, to keep you stagnant. If I tell you, I got ice cream over here, and then I say, but and I talk badly about you asking for the ice cream, ultimately I'm trying to prevent you from attaining the resources that are available for you. So
Wow.
yeah, that perception is out there. And then I would ask, and this is the other piece. A lot of times we view other people's perceptions to be more important than our own well-being. I put a post up on Facebook that said, other people's perceptions of you is not your business.
Their business.
You're right. It's their business.
I like
I can't. I really can't control your perception of me. That's on you. But I shouldn't let that dictate or determine how I operate in life. And we are, as much as we say, I don't care what people think. That's a lie. We do care
we
what
do.
people think.
Yeah, we do big
We
time.
we just learn how to adapt and coexist. But we do care.
Yeah, the perception carry. I got to tell you this, man. I ask for money all the time, bro. I have no problem asking for money. But I wasn't always like that. I used to be real timid going in, but I'm like, when you change the way you think of when people loan me money for real estate, I'm doing them a favor, Carrie. I am putting their money to work in one of my deals. We're paying them interest. So it's really about the way you look at it, And this is not the class to teach about raising private money, but Carrie, your position when we take money for a deal, anybody that loans us money, we are in the driver's seat, Carrie. We're doing. They want to lend it, brother. You're going to be in a position one day where people want to lend you money more than you want to borrow it. I don't even want it. I'm like, listen, we're good. Matter of fact, I got a call today from a lender that wants to lend us some money. So when your posture is different, you come from a position of power, then things will change. And I can't get really too deep into it today, but that's how you obtain all the financing you want. All right, unique view. We have a lot of uneducated children in our school systems. That is true. They grow up to be uneducated adults. Wow.
Hmm. That's a true statement. And it starts with how our youth are labeled. And this goes back to the parents not knowing, A, what's available, um, parents not being able to advocate for their children appropriately. They will allow teachers to say, well, this is where your student is. This, like a lot of parents don't know in elementary school, SOLs, you can have your child not take SOLs.
What?
Right. But schools won't always say that because it may be a negative reflection on them. But if you identify that your child stresses now in certain grades and certain subjects, but we don't ask the questions, so a lot of times our children suffer because the parents aren't educated and they're not willing to go in because, again, that perception of me not knowing. Or the other piece is when we go in emotional, all,
Man,
guns blazing, and now you fit the perception of, well, they're just ignorant, they don't know, and nothing
wow.
gets accomplished. So
That
that
goes
goes back to being being emotionally
emotion.
stable to
Yes.
say when I go in, I'm going in, I'm taking notes. I know the hierarchy of if I have a problem, who do I go to? So I tell parents all the time, before you go in and address a problem, have a solution in your head. If you don't get the answer you need from the teacher, who's the next in command? After that, who's the next in command after that? Know the steps all the way up to the school board. That's public information that you can find out, and you speak from a place. And then the other piece is sometimes, we got to hold our kids accountable too. So there's twofold to that. You got some parents that come in guns blazing, and sometimes the kids are, have some fault in what's going on as well. But, it's that miscommunication, misperception, and just the emotional stability not being in place.
Wow. All right, two more, and then we're done, John. I'll get you out of here. TB Williams, hey. Amanda from Memphis, Tennessee, John. Hey, Amanda. Uh,
Okay.
Williams, TB, she wants to know what are your thoughts on poverty and mental health? She thinks poverty could possibly lead to PTSD, John.
Absolutely leads to PTSD. You think about it. You have a child who has to deal with where their meal is coming from, whether they have and again, perception of poverty is wide, but they have so many other things that a child shouldn't have to deal with. Um, Ironically enough, I just saw a post on Facebook, a couple that I went to middle school with. And I'm reading, and the gentleman is locked up now. He got 34 years for drug But his girlfriend gave a testimony about how at 12 years old they started dating, and they were being locked out the house because both of their moms were addicts of crack, and they would be put out the house. So that's how they came together. And I'm thinking in my head, in middle school, I was going home to a two-parent household. I didn't have to worry about being put out my house. So how in the world can you? I struggled in middle school enough having a stable home. So now you talk about not knowing if you're going to be allowed in the house, and you
Wow.
worry about reading a book. You want me to know who, you know, Julius Caesar was, and I
Mhm.
ain't got no food at home, or I can't sleep well because I got an infestation. We ain't got no lights. I got to go
Wow.
out and I got to try and figure out some type of way. So you talking about get this education so that you can go to college. But what's more important to me now is this grumbling that's in my stomach, me surviving, me being able to live. So
Mhm.
yeah, poverty plays a significant role in mental health.
Wow.
Um, it's it is a challenge. It is a significant challenge that we wrestle with. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, this isn't. I'll perfectly, John. This won't be the last time that we have these discussions. I've been trying to get this guy as we close out. I want everybody to know I've been working on this. Well, we've been working. Has it been 2 years, John?
It's been longer than 2 years. This
Has-
this, this conversation started about almost 3 years ago.
wow. Thank you, brother John. You broke up. You said 3 years ago. What'd you say after that?
Now, I said this conversation started about 3 years ago. That's all I said.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Final thoughts, Johnny Underwood, for men. I guess for an approach to manhood. What are the final thoughts for our viewers for today, Brother John?
If I could leave one thing, I would say ultimately understanding that there is no blueprint for manhood. There are only tools that can help you be successful. And oftentimes we're more reactive versus proactive. We have to you have to have an acceptance of, you know what, it starts with me. You can't judge based on everybody else. You have to have it starts with me attitude to say, you know what, just because my dad did X, Y, and Z doesn't mean I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. You're going to have people that are going to speak um, life into you. You're going to have people that's going to speak death into you. You know, words hurt. And you have to just have an understanding that, you know what, let me learn for myself. You have to be an advocate. You have to research. You got to read. That's something that I'm trying to do better at. I was given this book to read, Know Your Why. So that's my goal is to have it read before the end of the year. Um, I'm not an advocate reader. I'm be honest. I'm getting better at it. I went through college and I wrestled. Um, I was mentally lazy at the end of the day, and that's the other piece. You got to take ownership. We have to start taking ownership. It's nothing wrong with me saying I messed up. The problem with saying that is if you're going to stay there and not do anything about it. You got to say, you know what? All right, I messed up, but this is what I'm going to do to move forward. To me, that is what it means to be a man. Accepting your shortcomings, creating an action plan and moving forward and trying to attain and reach a goal. And
Wow.
if you are a father, understanding that it's not about me. The moment that my daughter was born, I had the understanding that I was now responsible for someone to make sacrifice, because sacrifice means something's going to cost. And at the end of the day, if you're a father, it's all about sacrifice.
Exactly.
So, that's not really a final thought. But, this manhood thing is challenging. And, I appreciate the fact that, women were on the call or on the line as well, because they hold a key to us understanding who we are too. A lot of times we like to say men over here, women over here. Yeah, we are, but we're also intertwined with how we respond to things. as men, we were birthed from a mother. So there is a component in us that connects with them. We have to get to a place that, we are A, willing to ask the questions, B, willing to share with one another, and then C, we got to take better care of ourselves, mentally and physically. Those, if I could eat with three things, I would say that.
Well, just have my goal is to have the conversation more so it can be not as taboo to talk about this stuff. You know?
Hey, well, I would say this, man. If as long as it was beneficial to those who were watching, you feel like it was effective, I would be willing to come back on. I have no problem, being on this forum with you, man. I enjoyed it. I look forward to. And here's the other piece. I didn't realize that what I had to say made a difference or was
What?
valuable. I'm just being honest because you because it's like I answer. So who the hell want to listen to me? But what I've learned is, yeah, I ain't got all the answers, but based on the mistakes that I've made, it can help somebody else not make that mistake. And if everybody was willing to do that, how much better would our society be?
You're right. Well, I was reading a book just
So,
the other day. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, so from that standpoint, I'm willing to be, transparent and to, be an open book.
Thank you. Next time we'll get into some other stuff. I think that sharing. I love the transformation from the old John to this one. I think that I don't know the whole story. I just heard bits that you thrown out in sessions, and
Right.
I know that guy was a beast. So I'm like, I think that's
Well, you think about it. I shared with you how I was shaped from that trauma in middle school of being attacked. So there was a guard up. I'm gonna be honest. I was very swift with my tongue. Even in Hampton, I would crack jokes, and part of that was because of my insecurities. I created a wall, and if I created a wall with humor, it lessened the opportunity for you to be able to penetrate that and hurt me. So my trauma just got morphed into something humorous that everybody could enjoy. So now, I try and use my voice because at the end of the day, it was all about influence. In Hampton, I had an influence. I just didn't always use it the right way. Now I have a level of influence and I try and do it to help others be better.
That's a big vantage change, a paradigm shift, so to speak. You can use your power for good or bad, John. It's like that brain can grow good or bad thoughts.
That's right. Absolutely correct.
Um, I wanted to mention. I read a book that's saying like the knowledge you have, John. I read a book that what a man learns when he passes on to the afterlife leaves with him. But what he shares with other people, it gets to spread out throughout the universe. So I was just saying that to say, John, the more that you talk and speak out, it gets to move throughout and it gets to touch people like me and the viewers.
Right. So mentally lazy, going back to what was said earlier about the resources and things of that nature. Like I feel on my spirit to write a book to help people deal with the passing of a loved one. I think part of the reason I haven't done it, I don't know if I'm at a place where I can unpack those emotions right now. You know what I'm saying? The other piece is I don't know how to go about doing it. And then on number three, I think I still wrestle with, does anybody really want to hear what I got to say about that? You
Oh,
know, I'm being completely transparent. Those are the factors that I wrestle with back and forth. I do what I've started doing is just jotting down different thoughts as they come to me. So there is a process that's starting. It's probably should have taken place a lot faster, but at least I'm starting there. And that's me admitting, my own faults in that.
well, John, think about it like this, brother. I try to put it once again that compartmentalization type thing, man, that I have learned over the years. When we cut the TV on, John, we cut the news on. people that look like me and you, a lot of times aren't being showed in the best light, if you will.
Absolutely.
Where else can somebody that looks like you and me hit a button and now you can cut YouTube on your TV and see something? You follow me, I'm gonna bring it around. See something like this exchange happen on TV.
Okay.
So I'm saying that to say, how many other people that look like you, where am I? That book is going to be so unique to our community, where most of the time we're reading Chicken Soup for the Soul and the like. I'm not saying they're, obviously they're New York Times bestsellers, but
Right.
I enjoy reading and learning from. I really enjoy talking to people that look like me, and it's not that I enjoy all nationalities, but it gives me a special warm feeling to be able to exchange values, philosophies, ideas, and goals with people that look like me.
Well, even from an educational standpoint, you look at the scores of black males that teach black males. The scores are significantly higher. A, because as a child, you look at somebody, a teacher who is somebody who you look up to, and now you see somebody that looks like you have a greater understanding or belief that you can be successful. If I'm not exposed to people that don't look like me, in my head, I don't put myself in that realm. Visual learners. I mean, that's basic fundamentals.
Nice.
So that makes absolute sense. You think about how we were impacted by, the Cosby Show growing up. And I
Oh
know that's a
man.
bad, I know that's a bad reference to use, but on that Thursday night when it came on, that's what was put into us, and then you had a different world. So now we were exposed to a HBCU at an early age. I didn't think twice about it. Like, okay, this is the norm because I was exposed to it. If you're not exposed to these things, then how can we even try and attain it? We can't.
All right, brother John. Oh, how do people get in touch with you on somebody? Miss Williams was. Do you have an Instagram? How do they find you on Facebook or Instagram, John?
I do. Okay, so Facebook is just my name, Johnny Underwood, but I do have another Facebook page, Changing Mindset, changing
I'm
outlooks to change outcomes.
gonna type it in. Go ahead, John.
Uh, so the first Facebook is my name, Johnny Underwood. Then the other Facebook page is Change Your Mindset, changing outlooks to change outcomes.
Type in.
And then media stuff, but I do have a Twitter account, and it's just my name, Johnny Underwood.
That's cool. I got
And
that.
then,
I can get it.
yeah, Instagram, same as well, too.
I wanted to bring this for my rounduppers, my roundup family, because I thoroughly believe when when we can get ourselves together, then we can get our families together.
Absolutely.
Johnny, thank you. God bless you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank everybody for listening to as well.
Last time, subscribe to my channel, guys. Make sure you take a few moments, just hit the thumbs up so we can get high on our optimization. Any other comments that you want to leave for Johnny, I'm sure he'll be checking back here. And leave a comment if whatever you like Johnny to cover the next time, because I'm going to claim it that we're going to have Johnny on here one more time in the near future.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, mine. And Chris, I want to thank you for even seeing something in this conversation before it even took place, and then B, following through with it. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate that. It helps me, and it will encourage me to do more of what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's right. All right, Jay. Enjoy your family. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right. Peace.